This is TWiT.
So Leo's gone, so we've turned this into a cooking show.
Yeah, exactly. we said tech. Yeah.
These are, Leo and I did a tech cooking segment, but you have mostly different things, and you have some of the same things, but some that you use them very differently, which I think is interesting.
All the time. So I mean, this is, I cook a lot, but I'm not a really highly technical cook. You know, it's like, you know, I just know how to make things. And so the idea, what I was trying to think about are things that I use that just make it easier. Like this isn't about becoming, you know, the next Gordon Ramsay. This is about your meals are easy, you don't have to think about them, and they're good.
Yes.
You know, that kind of makes them great. So the one that I got introduced to in Japan, I worked on a movie in Japan for 6 weeks, and so they put me in an apartment. And in the apartment, every apartment has, I think every household in Japan has a Zojirushi. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm good
like
at looking at it and knowing it. Zojirushi. And it is, this is a, it's a really smart rice cooker. So if we open it up here, you'll see the rice is done.
Ooh.
It sang us a little song earlier. And what's cool about it is that you literally take this little cup and you fill it up and you decide I want one of these cups or two of these cups or three of these cups. And then you've got these little numbers that come up the side. And that just tells you where to put the water. So you put the cup in, you fill the water to the right line, you know, and it has all the different kinds of, you know, whether it's sweet or brown or jasmine or white or, in this case, sushi rice. And you close it, you select what kind of rice you have on the front, and then you hit start. And it just, off it goes. You know, and it does, and then you walk away and you don't think about it. And literally it'll keep the rice moist and ready to eat all day. Now it's best when it just comes out. This was done a little earlier, so we'll pull some of this, not put it in there. So, but what you're gonna notice is for sushi rice, you know, it's nice and moist. If we take a little butter.
Oh, butter.
Butter. But if we mix that in a little bit, what we really need is some
Chopsticks.
You know, chopsticks, yeah, exactly. But you can see how it's nice and moist. It's kind of just the way you'd expect it.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if it's very Japanese to put butter in your
I don't
rice,
think it is, but that's
I'm
okay.
doing it anyway because I'm, you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? So anyway, but here, try some.
Okay. Tastes good.
And you didn't have to think about it at all.
No, that's what I like.
We didn't have to think about time. We didn't have to think about anything else. We filled the cup to the top. We filled the water to the line. We shut it and hit start.
Right, and then we did something else.
And we went away and just never thought about it again. And at the end, during the show, we heard it sings a little song. So it sings a little song, tells you your rice is done. And if you're not ready right then, you just leave it there for a little while longer. I really like things that are precise about what they do, so that I don't have to be precise about what I do.
That's so smart.
You know, so the other one that I use a lot is I use the Anova. And I have lots of different sous vide cookers. I got the first one that was like a box. It was like the Supreme, and it was like a box you put stuff in. And then I've got a couple different other versions of it. But I've been the happiest with the Anova, and I admit that I have a couple. The reason is that what the Anova is good at, and you probably talked about it on your other segment, is or what a sous vide cooker is good at, is that it's very precise about the temperature. You don't have to be very precise about the time. So what that means is that we have friends coming over, and I want to have a steak right when they get over there, or I want to be ready for that. I don't have to worry about when I start that steak. When they come over, we'll say hi, we'll grab a beer, and I'll throw this and cook it in minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, and it's going to be great because the whole thing has been cooked. Essentially, how the sous vide works is that the water is at a certain temperature, your steak is at a different temperature. As you leave the steak in, or the steak, the chicken, the vegetables, the salmon, as you leave it in there longer, it essentially, the meat equalizes temperature with the water. So end to end, it's whatever temperature you set. So in this case, I set it to 128 degrees Fahrenheit. That means the whole steak after an hour is at 128 degrees. Now, the only thing that happens when I leave it longer is that it gets softer, because basically the heat is denaturing the protein. And if you, and what happens is, like, we left it in here for an hour, so we'll try it after an hour. For like a tri-tip, my wife likes it at about 36 hours. I like it at about 24 hours. If you leave it at 48 hours, I think it gets a little mealy because it gets soft. And I have found if you leave it for 3 weeks, It turns into liquid.
Why would you leave it for 3 weeks?
I would love to say that it was an experiment. I just wanted to see what would happen, but I put it in, and I had the Supreme, which is closed, doesn't make any noise. I put it in, and I was in a rush the next day. I went to Europe. And I came back, and it was still on.
You didn't remember that you didn't eat your steak?
There was a lot of things going on. I was going to eat it that evening, and then I realized, oh, I got to leave that evening.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't think about it again. And then there's oftentimes a lot of things going on in my head, and so things get left behind.
So none of this technology is going to remind you to eat.
No. Okay. No, it's just going to be. But when you remember, it's there waiting for you. You know. And so the great thing is that, and again, like if you're doing a barbecue, what's great is you might put 2 or 3 steaks in there, and so whenever you feel like having another one, you just pull it out. There's a couple different ways of heating it. You can, I brought a blowtorch, we'll play with that in a second. You can also throw it on a hot pan, so you can get like a cast iron pan and get it up to 500 degrees and throw it on there and sear it, because when it comes out, it looks a little, you'll see that it looks a little like a science experiment. And, but so then you just gotta caramelize that outside area. The best way to do it is a big green egg, or some version of that, where you're basically, get it up to 800, 900 degrees, throw it in for a minute on each side, and you're done. And it'll be the best steak you've ever had, and you didn't have to do anything. So let me show you how you do it. This is the part that gets people caught up, is they buy this part, right? They've seen the Anova stuff, they buy it, and then if they're smart, the first thing that everybody does is they buy this, and then they start using it with their pots. So, and then there's like a pot, because they advertise like this is all you need, right? It's not all you need. So the way to do this is you get this, and this is now down to 70 bucks or 80 bucks or something. It's not very expensive. When I bought it, it was more expensive. Not that I'm bitter. And then I got this. This is a Rubbermaid 12 quart. And if you buy this on Amazon, it'll say, hey, would you like one of these? And the answer is yes. Yes, you would. And then.
What, does it come with this?
No, this isn't. This is a Sous Vide. And when you buy this, it will say, hey, do you want this? And the answer, you won't say yes the first time, and you wish you had. So what this does is it keeps the temperature. It'll use less energy with this if you have this to insulate it a little bit. And then there's a top that I forgot to bring in, which is that you put it over and it keeps the water from evaporating. So those are the kind of full things. And then some people, if they're going to do something for a long period of time, actually have cut holes in igloos and stuck this into the thing, because then it really keeps the water where you want it to be. And that has nothing to do with the quality of the sous vide. It just has to do with how much energy you're using to keep it at that temperature. So you get this little kit, and this is all gonna, together, all of these are gonna be about $100, $9,500. Then I have bought very big and expensive vacuum sealers, and this one's just fine.
How much is that one?
This one's like 70 bucks or 50 bucks. It's like $50 to $70, depending on where you see it. It's made by some Japanese or some Chinese company, and the name up here changes about every 6 months.
But it's the same one.
But if you look at this form factor, this is what it should be. So this is a vacuum sealer. I'm just going to open it up. And there's a couple things that catch people. The first thing is, this is a roll of vacuum seal. So basically, it's just one long roll, and this is the way to do this, because instead of trying to figure out which Ziploc to use or what bag, you just make it as long. If you have a tri-tip, you need this much. If you have a little steak, you need this much. So you just decide what you need. You take the open end, and you put it in here. You put it right in between here, and you just close this. And you have to close it on both ends. And then you just hit seal. Don't hit vacuum and seal. Okay. It's a big mess. So, and when the little light goes off here, it'll be done. I don't know what is taking so long. There we go. So when you open it up, now it's closed off that. Using heat, it's closed that off.
Could you just use like an iron or something?
You could. It'd get really sticky.
Okay.
You know, because I mean, I'm sure you could if you wanted to, but I think it would be a very sticky thing to do. And you wouldn't be able to use the iron for anything other than this after.
I don't use it for anything else anyway.
Well, then, yeah, exactly. So, all right. So then you cut it, and so you just cut the length. And I've got a little steak in here that I grabbed at Rayleigh's on the way here, and so you take your steak, and well, what you would normally do is put it on a plate, but I'm just going to stick it in here right now. And then I use a lot of different kind of salts. So this is salt. We talked about this. This is the same salt. We use this little Malden sea salt.
Yeah,
these are flakes, and the flakes tend to work really well with the steak when you're doing it. And I'm making a big mess with the salt. Sorry in advance.
It's okay.
Anyway, so then you get some salt on here. You want to get it on both sides. And this, I usually do it on a plate, but I just realized I don't really have it quite set up right, so I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to get salt all over this table and in the electronics, and John is going to hate that.
Okay, what's this?
This is espresso Brava salt. We're not going to use it on this one, but it is so good. So you can add this to the steak, and it actually gives it a whole different kind of taste.
Can you use this on other stuff? Because I don't actually eat steak, so
you can use it on all kinds of things that you would use salt on.
Eat it straight?
Yeah, okay. You can.
I will do that.
It might give you a little buzz too. Like, yeah. And so anyway, then I like to add a little, like a little twig of rosemary for the, to set it up. So you stick it in there.
Oh, you don't even break it up. You just stick it in there.
Stick it in there with there. Now, this is what everyone screws up when they buy it the first time. They put it way up here, and then they're like, it doesn't work. Every single person I've ever given one of these to, it's a lot of people. They always say it doesn't work, and so you have to get it right in, because this is the gap that's pulling the oxygen out. So then you push this in, and you hit.
Whoa.
Just thinking about it. And then, so what it does, it sucks all the oxygen out and then immediately seals the end. And so now it's ready to go. And the reason you need to do this is because you need the water to be completely touching the surface of this object. If there's air in there, number one is it's a great breeding ground for bad things if you're going to leave it there for a long time.
Like 3 weeks.
Yeah, like 3 weeks or 2 days. But it also means that the water is completely touching all of this, and you don't have big air gaps. And the biggest thing is that it floats. So if you throw it in there and you have oxygen in it, it'll float to the top, and then there's this constant issue. So anyway, so you take that, and we had one that we put in before the show.
Okay. You want the plate?
Yeah, sure, we'll grab one of these plates here. So this is sorry, I'm making a really big mess here.
That's okay, we don't have to clean it up.
Excellent. So then you take this guy and you just throw him in there, right? And then we find our scissors.
I have to say, that doesn't look that good.
It doesn't, not until you're... Oh, you don't eat steak either, so
right.
it's not. You're gonna be
even when I used to, it looks a little.
No, because it hasn't been seared. So you're used to seeing it seared. By the time it does this, like usually fire has affected it, right? And to someone who doesn't have steak, does it really gross you out to have steak near you?
No. I mean, even if you loved steak, like this looks weird, right? It looks like a little moldy.
I know. As I said earlier, it'll look like a science experiment. So then what you... Celery and carrots is just the base of a soup. All right, so anyway, so now this is the easiest way to do it when we don't have anything else to be really hot.
Should we have safety goggles? I guess not.
Sure. I think safety goggles would be a great idea. If only we had some safety goggles, we'd be safe now. But instead, we're living on the edge. So now, my kids, the nice thing about doing it this way is that it is a lot more fun at parties.
Yeah.
So, my kids, I did this once, I think, for one of my kids, like, where their friends came over, and they only wanted the sous vide because they wanted to, they wanted me to do this in front of their friends.
Right, they wanted you to wield fire.
And they wanted to do it in front of their friends, and I was like, let's talk about that.
It smells really good. Can you make bacon with this?
Oh yeah, you can make bacon. So I make a bacon sandwich, egg, bacon, and cheese sandwich for my kids for breakfast, and I cook Black Forest for about a day in the sous vide, and then you cook it for like a minute on each side, and it's super soft because remember everything just gets softer. So anyway, so there you go. So now it looks more like a steak, right?
Yeah, it does. It looks much better.
Yeah.
It looks
and
great.
So, but the cool thing is that when normally we would flip it. I'll flip it, and we'll do it just a little bit on the other side.
Is this healthier in any way?
I don't know if it's healthier or not. I know that it just tastes a lot better, and I don't have the time to figure out how to do it well. It was funny. I forgot to turn the sous vide on one time, and I had to explain to someone. I was like, I don't think you understand. I don't know how to cook it without a sous vide. Like, I don't know how to cook steak without a sous vide. Like, I know how to do this. Now we're going to leave it. It's going to look a little like a science experiment on one side.
Okay.
And then I'm going to just cut it just so you see that.
That it's cooked.
It's cooked. I'm not. Let's see. I need a fork.
We don't have a fork.
Here, I'm just going to grab it like this.
We have a spoon.
I asked for a lot of things, and I forgot to ask for the fork. So what you see though is that if we look at it from the side,
Oh.
I don't know if you can see that there, but so what you have is this perfect medium rare steak that's from end to end. It is medium rare, and then you get the caramelization on the outside, or you get the searing on the outside, so it tastes like that steak. But you're not. Normally when you have it, when you've cooked it, I don't think you want any steak, but
no, I don't.
But normally when you cook it, you'll have this center part. It's just this little center part will be red, and the rest of it will be cooked at different levels. This one, because it's just seared on the outside and it's medium rare all the way through. So I wouldn't suggest a sous vide if you really want it to be well done. But I wouldn't suggest eating steak if you really want it to be well done.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway.
Then can we use this thing?
Yeah.
Now
So this is. The last bit is this is a laser measure. This one's made by eTech City, but these are some version of a, it's a Chinese company that makes it for lots of people, so there's lots of different names for it. And all this does is you point it at the steak, and it'll tell us exactly. This is still 124 degrees, 120, 25, 26. Move it around. So what I use this for is not so much for this. I use it when I'm cooking with pans because I want to know exactly. I make a lot of. I like omelets, and so I make a lot of omelets. Well, not a lot, but one every morning. So anyway,
That's a lot.
And so one every morning, but it's slightly different. Some have cheese omelets. I make a pizza omelet. I make a real foamy omelet. I make I make lots of different kinds of omelets. And the big thing is that by constantly sampling the pan, and this thing is like $15. It's not like this is not an expensive thing to have. So literally, anyway, anywhere I think I'm going to cook, I tend to put it in because again, I don't know how to do it without it. Like I don't know what a medium heat is. I just know 240 degrees, 325 degrees. I know that I like to make most of my omelets at 340 degrees. I know I like to make my scrambled eggs at 260 degrees. I know, and so and you get used to having that precision. And what happens is you sample it while you're cooking it, and then you learn, 425 degrees is too hot to cook an omelet. It burns on the outside and doesn't cook on the top.
Well, if you were making chicken too, you'd want to know it was fully cooked, right?
Yes, although I even sous vide my chickens.
Right.
You can put a whole Cornish hen in there, just in case you're wondering. It's kind of good.
What about turkey?
I have not put a whole turkey in. The Cornish hen is about as big as I've been able to get the vacuum pack to work. So but the turkey, I know that Andy Anako cuts his up and puts it in pieces, and then cooks it there. So I do for my turkeys. I do deep fat fry. I oil and.
That's another episode, the deep fat fryer. But I like this because if you have a meat thermometer, you stick it in.
Well, the problem is that that's not going to be a meat thermometer is going to tell you something different than this. This is going to tell you the surface temperature. So if you're measuring your chicken or your turkey, that's not going to work because you need to go to the deepest area.
Oh, that won't go all the way through?
No, because it's just what's at the surface. So you still need a meat thermometer.
I thought lasers could do everything.
Yeah, it's not X-ray lasers.
Okay.
So that one you need to get to the deepest part of the turkey or chicken to find out what the temperature is because the goal is that it's at least it touches 165 degrees. Now the funny thing is you start sous vide and you realize I can actually cook that 165 is just for a moment, for a minute or two. With sous vide, if you're going to leave it there for an hour, the chicken can actually be 145 or 150 degrees, which makes it really, really soft. But it's still safe because you left it in there long enough to kill everything anyway.
Could you make like chicken broth if you did your whole 3 weeks in there or something?
You probably could. I'm now thinking of something I might do next week. Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, so hopefully these are all things that again none of them are very complicated. This isn't something you have to go to school for. If I grew up now and I had a dorm room or I was when I'm in Washington D.C. working, I kind of feel like a bachelor, and so these are all things that I don't have to think about it. Like another thing I do with the sous vide is I'll throw the steak in the morning. When I come home, I have a dinner. Like 3 minutes after, I've got a steak dinner that's ready for me, rather than whatever chicken. Once I got these things, I stopped getting frozen foods.
Yeah, that's what bachelors do these days. They sous vide.
Yeah, exactly.